Hello, today we'll be taking a look at what's in this box from Eachine. But just before we get into that, a quick reminder to please like or dislike this video if you didn't like it. Comment down below, don't forget to subscribe, and if you can find it, click that little bell icon, it'll tell you when I'm uploading stuff. Now, you guys that thought, haven't we already seen this? This is the Novice-I. The answer is no. Here's the Novice-I, and we reviewed that a little bit ago. It's your sort of power whoop type quad with your inbuilt, well, your included receiver and goggles. Goggles awful, receiver, quad actually very good. But this is the Novice-II. Things don't stay still in FPV very long, this included. This is again built for the beginner, although you could question that given the first one and the way the controller reacted. But this is not an indoor prospect. This is basically a Toothpick style quad, and it very much looks the same. This is the Fly More bundle, where we get 10 lipos. In the regular bundle, you just get the 2 lipos, which is essentially one flight. And to go with that, you get this battery charger. Same battery charger as last time. The lipos are a little bit different. Last time, I think we had 300 milliamp high voltage battery. These are 450, so a little bit bigger. Hopefully they hold their current a little bit longer without sagging. So the controller does look exactly the same. I had a feel of this one, and I kind of felt like these were a little less stiffer, which might be easier to do. But I did see on a Facebook post from Eachine that these were going to be made longer. I've checked it out against the other controller. They feel exactly the same. And that, I felt, was the problem last time. You didn't have enough resolution because you needed your thumbs higher to be able to get that resolution, because they're quite stubby little sticks. But we'll have a go. We'll see what we can do. So I might as well go through what's in here while we're doing that. This is the actual quad itself. As you see, quite a nice little Toothpick style quad. A couple of interesting things on this one though. On the last quad, on the Eachine 1, we had the Runcam Nano. Really nice little camera. This one's gone back to the Caddx EOS 2. Not as good. It's not bad. It's just not as good as the Nano 2. That was a really nice camera. They've at least done something half decent here, which is they've shoved the receiver antenna upwards instead of downwards, where it's going to get blocked by the battery. Here's your VTX antenna, almost the same components inside, a 25 to 200 milliwatt VTX. These are 1103 8500 kV motors. Again, we're going to use 2 of those 1S batteries in series, and we've got this sort of little TPU caddy below to do it. One really good thing and very welcome thing is just under here, don't know if you can see it. We've got this little blob here, that is a beeper, so we've actually got a physical beeper on here. Clearly the guys at Eachine flew this around, lost a bunch, and thought, hey, we need to put a beeper on. There's also some LEDs just on the underside of that as well, so hopefully it should be nice and visible and you'll be able to hear it. Yeah, that's about it for that. It's quite good looking. Good news as well is on the last part of the component, they've changed the goggles. Previously the goggles were called the VR 005s, and they were basically felt like they were manufactured to try and amputate your nose. These are a slight upgrade. Equal the Eachine VR 009 goggles. You've got some little differences here. You've got buttons here instead of down here. You've got an AV out, so you can actually go out to an external DVR and record them. You've got a little bit more padding around here. As far as my nose goes, which is not small, it's quite a sizable nose. It's going to bash into it, but it's not quite as sharp as last time. At least it's slightly rounded. So I'll try and give these a go, and I'll at least try and record directly from these goggles instead of just from my Fat Shark, so I can give a reasonable idea of what those are like. An improvement over last time, but you know, keep going, keep improving. And then in this top section, you've got the 2 little rubber duck style antennas for that. You've got AV out cable, so you can record to an external DVR. Spare props, screwdriver, prop removal tool, little bits and pieces. You've actually got a little connector in there, so you can run 1S if you like. I don't know what that's going to be like on this quad. Maybe an idea. Got a little strap so you can carry the bag around on your shoulder, and then you've got 2 sets of these instructions again, which I'll go through and see what's in there. Now, last time with the Novice-I, what I did was I flew it as is. I didn't go into Betaflight at all because I felt this is what the beginner type person would do when flying a quad. and I soon found I had to go back and do some alterations on that controller because it was far too reactive, especially in the house. So on this one, I'm going to have a peek through Betaflight to see what it looks like first, because this is only going to be an outside quad. I don't really want to get all the way to the field, only to find that it's unflyable, lands in the mud, gets all wet, that sort of thing. So I'll have a look, and we'll go through what's there and what I might want to do. Obviously I want to see beepers set up and stuff like that. But what I might do is put my own set of rates in, just so I've got something to be able to use that I know is going to be good, and I can try my rates, try their rates, see what's going on. And the other thing I want to do with this one, which I didn't do with the Novice-I, is try and fly it with a proper hobby grade controller, like my X-Lite for example, just to see how it performs if you can, you know, give it a decent pair of sticks and see what it's like. So yeah, let's have a quick look on Betaflight first, see what we need to do before we go out and actually fly it. Okay, here we are on Betaflight. Let's see what's going on. And as with the previous Novice, in theory we shouldn't have to touch this, but I just want to see what was going on. We got smart audio set up on the config tab. We've got motor stop, which I like to see. 8K 8K loop, quite a high CPU load, which I don't like to see so much. It's running FreeSky D, which is okay. The rest of that looks okay. What's the power set to be? 4.4, yeah, I guess that's okay. So the tuning is where it gets interesting. If we look at the rate profile, these are not what I'd call beginner settings. I've got the radio out here, and let's have a look. Just gentle stick, nothing happening. It's quite a big dead zone on the stick where nothing happens, and so you can go from nothing to flicky roundy really quite quickly. I mean, you can kind of keep it in if you're nice and gentle on the sticks, but it feels like, you know, perhaps not everyone's going to be that gentle. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try flying it with this and with the original stick, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy the rate profile and then set myself up a more gentle profile on rate 2. So on this one I'm going to increase the expo quite dramatically to 0.3. Let's see how this feels. Like so. I'm going to give myself quite a big throttle expo because that was already a problem. Something like 0.4. Then I'm going to my RC rate. I bring my RC rate down. So essentially I don't think I need that much all the way through. Let's see how that feels. If I now, I've got more stick thing, and if I go full stick, it's still reasonably fast. Not super quick. Fast enough, I think. It still feels like it goes really crazy on the. It's easier to handle the roll than the pitch. The pitch still feels like it wants to go really quickly. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try something like that as my. Actually, I might just bring the super rate down as well. My OCD is not liking the fact that the figures aren't lined up. So, yeah, I mean, I can always change this in the field, but it doesn't feel like it's particularly slow. Let's put it that way. Anyway, save that. Well, for some reason it doesn't want to change into Profile 2. I had this the other day, where the flight controller seems to set it back again. But I copied my original values from rate profile 1 to 2 and from profile 1 to 2, so I'm okay there. So I can try it in 2 first and come back to it. The controller is obviously set up okay. It's got the tear map and RSS size in the SPI receiver. Modes we've got as arm, and the arm is the left stick. You can hear its actual physical beeper going on there, which is quite nice. Then we've got the right shoulder button being the mode, so we can go to angle and air mode, which is acro with air mode. Beeper is set, nice physical beeper there as aux4. Since I'm here, I may as well, just in case it comes up, add a turtle mode on the other thumbstick. So basically you press the thumbsticks in. If you've not seen this, check out the original Novice review. and then you see what these look like, but it's all the same. So we got that working nicely now as well. So yeah, I've made a change there, but I'm not going to change anything else. I'll leave the OSD as it is. The layout's not too bad. Yeah, I just want to see how it's going to fly, really. I think that'd be quite interesting. So yeah, let's go see what happens. We'll take it out to the field. My only worry about flying this in less than ideal conditions in a less than ideal radio is if it goes down, odds on it's going to get covered in mud and wetness, and hopefully stuff won't blow up, but who can tell. Oh, welcome to the field. It's so cold. My hands are freezing because they're not in gloves. Out here to test the Novice-II, and I'm not in my normal place for little quads. Normally I fly on that quite thin strip of land, but I figured because that controller is maybe not that good and hard to be accurate, and because as a beginner you'd want to be out in a sort of wide open space, I came here. So we've got this loaded up with the batteries already, got the controller, which I'm not completely sure about, but we'll try, and we've got the goggles. Now I tried these out and I can just about see in them. My idea for showing the recording is to hook it up to the little Eachine watch I've got, which takes AV input. So we'll try that. I might fly some of them on Fat Sharks depending how comfortable it is and stuff, but I can feed back on that later after I actually try it. So first off, let's get this thing in the air, see what happens. So this is using those goggles that were supplied, and the recording is going to the AV input of the watch. So this is pretty much what I was seeing in the goggles, and I'm pretty unimpressed because it's all breaking up. And I should explain, this is actually my third flight of the system. This is not quite maiden. I'm showing this out of order. I started off with the Fat Sharks just in case I had any problems. I thought get the best vision I could, and in that first flight I forgot to record it. So I did another flight on the Fat Sharks before actually going over to these goggles. So I know that the picture from it is actually fine in proper goggles. So this was, I'd have to say, pretty damn nasty. And I thought, no, I'm not going to be able to fly like this because I lose the ability to see for little split seconds as it goes funny. So what I did is bring it in to swap back to the Fat Sharks, and I thought to myself, what I can do to see if it's down to these goggles or something else, I can get the watch to record it using its normal RF module. So let's have a look at that now. So after landing I took off again. Now I'm in the Fat Sharks at this point, but this is the direct recording from the watch, and you can see it's pretty bad. And if I put that side by side with the original goggle recording versus the Fat Shark recording, you can see that just the amount of noise and breakup going up on the normal goggles and how clean it is otherwise on the Fat Sharks. I mean, the Fat Sharks have the rapid fire module, which is very, very good, but it's particularly bad on these goggles, and I can only suspect either the receiver is dodgy or the antennas are dodgy themselves. More about that later. So I'll go back to the second flight I had, which happens to be the first one I recorded, and I'm using the Fat Sharks both for flying now and recording, but I am using the original controller, and obviously nothing's changed about the quad. And first impressions are surprisingly good. The quad feels very solid indeed. I'm still finding, even though I've changed the rates and the RC rates and all sorts on the controller to try and bring it a bit more into line, it's still very, very reactive. You have to be so gentle on the sticks. The yaw feels like it's okay, but the roll and especially the pitch still feels like it could go down further. But on a proper hobby controller, I think this would be really quite nice because it's actually flying quite nicely. The camera's not fantastic in this light, but this is, I have to say, very challenging conditions even for a decent camera with the sun as low as it is. So under the circumstances, it's not doing too bad. You've just got to approach from the right angle when you're coming in, else you just won't be able to see anything. I have to say that this first couple of flights I did, I used the default camera angle and it is pretty high. Again, it's nowhere near where a beginner should have it. They should have it much flatter, and that coincides with the rates as well. Even on these rates that are much lower, it's still quite difficult on this controller to keep things exactly where you want to be pointing. So somebody who would really whack the sticks about would have all sorts of problems. So that would need to be dumbed down even further to make it really suitable. But it really does help having a wide open space. When I flew the original Novice-I in a constrained sort of thinner space, it was a bit trickier because you had so little room for error. So taking this out into a nice open area like this, and you can keep it quite high, and you can just zap it around and do whatever you like. It's a lot easier. It takes some of the stress out of it, and certainly for anybody just beginning flying, a big open area where you can get plenty of height is a good thing. I'm just coming in for a landing here, and I need to land quite accurately, else the quad's going to get wet. And you can kind of see that the camera angle is quite up there, and it takes quite a bit of concentration to get it down right. So again, not that beginner friendly. So here's the last battery I did. I did I think 4 sets of batteries, mainly because I got too cold. And I've changed the camera angle a bit, so it's a little bit further down. It's a little bit more beginner friendly, but you can still cruise around and have some good fun with it. I found it particularly nice for sort of going around and doing nice low passes, and that being quite good. The difficulty I had was doing things like a split S-turn, where I just didn't have enough fine control of the pitch stick to be happy with. So it's just too fast. Instead of a nice gentle dive where I come out of it, I'm just sort of flipping straight over instead. But acrobatically, quad works really nicely. Even in these lower rates, there's plenty in it. It can really do a lot. And as far as the batteries are going, I was getting between 3 and 4 minutes, and coming in with still reasonable voltage. And this is where it's very cold as well, so I would actually expect a little bit more. It depends how you fly, of course. I'm sort of zipping up and down. I'm not going too far. You can see that the RSSI tells us that you really don't want to push the range on this, because it will get away from you quite quickly. So really, you're going to be flying within close proximity, doing circuits, getting used to what's happening. So as long as you remember that and don't go out of range, you'll be okay. The approach with the flatter camera angle makes things a little bit easier, but very fine control on the joysticks is still quite difficult. Be prepared to spend a lot of time really getting your thumbs used to this if you're not going to upgrade the controller to something better. I did have reason to use the buzzer as well. I was just coming in here and I'd flicked it into acro, and basically I just dropped the throttle stick a little bit too much, and the quad sort of dropped out and lost it. And when I put the throttle back on, I just wasn't in a good position to pull back out again, and so down I went. Happily though, that beeper's loud and it works good, and I was able to find it very easily. So this is a bit of an interesting prospect. A lot better, I felt, than the original Novice, because it kind of works better. In the Novice-I, you're expected to fly that indoors where it's more confined space, and this just doesn't let you do it. It's not good enough as a controller. So ironically, although it should be the fact that flying indoors using a whoop is very easy, because of that package it wasn't. This, where you take outdoors in a wide open space with this controller, is actually workable, and this flies very nicely. So it's kind of a slightly different prospect and is better. Is it the best thing ever? Certainly not. We still had to dial the rate way down in this, and if I was a beginner, I don't think I'd be able to fly this with this controller, even with my much lower rates. I'd have to whack that down much further to have that right. And this is what Eachine should have done, and it should have been saved in there before they even released it. So it should have been really docile. Like, people should be able to whack the sticks around and this thing just sort of literally go like this. I mean, as it was, the rates were way too high, the camera was up way too high, so it just doesn't suit the novice. It doesn't suit who it's for, which is a shame, because you put all this stuff together and you get, a nice package, nice box like this. You get the 10 lipos in it and everything. Obviously this is the Fly More version, but they screw it up in a couple of ways. I mean, the controller it would be vaguely workable if they got the rates right, but it's still not nice. Now this again is down to the stick length. After the Novice-I, they said they'd actually change the stick length and make it longer. They have not, but I do note, and people have told me, that you can take these off, you can put something in there to lengthen them yourself. And I think perhaps the 3D printed part will be the thing there, so maybe I'll follow up with that. The real problem on this particular one with the goggles. Now the goggles actually are much more comfortable than the original ones. That's not saying much, because stabbing yourself in the face with like a needle is more comfortable than original ones. I'm not saying these are comfy by any means, but you can wear them without being in pain, which is a major upgrade. And I like the fact it had a AV out as well, so I could record stuff directly. Unfortunately, the actual picture we're getting from these were very, very bad. Now, that recording you saw was directly into the AV input of this watch. So that should have been, that was exactly how we saw. But I also saw that when I recorded directly to the watch using its RF input, it was equally very bad. And that perhaps tells me that maybe it's because we're using a linear to a linear antenna, which in the outside where you're turning around may be very bad. So perhaps the thing to do would be replace it with some circular polarized antennas. Now I would have done it out on the field. I'd taken the antenna off my Fat Sharks and I took the antenna off this, but my Fat Sharks uses SMA, this uses RPSMA, so a completely different signal. So I do want to do a follow-up in a couple of ways, and I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to come back and try this with circular polarized antennas on these goggles. I also want to see if I can get something to lengthen the sticks, and then I want to fly both Novices using a hobby grade controller, something like this, but not this one, to see how good they can be, and hopefully it gives you a sort of upgrade path. If you went down this route, then you know what you can upgrade. But I mean, the problem is at the moment, as a beginner package, although everything's in there, it's going to be really quite difficult for a novice to fly it still, unless you really get some help in getting those rates down to the right sort of docile rates for you. So it's a tricky one. I think the quad's really nice. It flies very smoothly. It didn't have amazing amounts of power. It's only 2S, so I put full throttle on it. It sort of goes up like this. It's not a rocket ship, but smoothness and flew around nicely. These props are actually pretty good. They're pretty stiff, not like the normal sort of fluttery ones. But yeah, I liked that. This I could just about live with, but didn't like it particularly. This was a little bit unworkable. You saw the sort of picture I was having. I wasn't happy flying with that. And again, novice people are going to really struggle if they can't see what they're doing right. So still, overall, I can't recommend it as a beginner package, but I really like the quad. At the moment, Eachine don't seem to be selling these as, you know, bind and flies or whatever. They sell it as the whole package, which is a bit of a shame, because again, the previous Novice-I little power whoop was very nice as well, but they're not selling that individually. But if you're a beginner and you're very keen on getting something like this, just be aware that you're going to have to do some homework about how to use Betaflight, how to get in there, reduce the rates, how to make your fingers not move much, and potentially how to upgrade these so it works a little bit better than it is right now. Anyway, this has been the Novice-II from Eachine, kindly supplied for review by Banggood, so thanks to them. And I'll have links down below for where you can check this out in more detail. And as I said, I'll come back and do some more testing on the controller, the goggles, and the Novice-I and II on a different radio. Until that time, I hope this review's been helpful, and I'll catch you next one. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.